But the tree.
Point is well taken. I think when
Uncle, are you gonna rewind it?
Thrones, it's more like the NBA championships or something like that.
I kind of think it's Westeros. I really think it's Westeros.
We are trying to bring.
I mean, I think that map of Westeros at the beginning of Game of Thrones is not unlike the one at the beginning of Silicon Valley.
I think of it more like we are all bringing electricity to Westeros, not necessarily try to kill each other. Hopefully not. There are no lives at stake. But the point is well taken. I think when it comes to machine learning and AI, the ability to bring that in a meaningful way to users, I do think, pretty proud of what we've accomplished, and it is still early days for all of us. And we do a variety of benchmarking studies, so we generally feel we are ahead.
Are screens dead? I mean, if we're going to do this by voice, do we need screens?
In some cases, yes. So, for example, today, when people get into their car, people do talk to their cars, and, but the screen is convenient as well. You would stop thinking about it as, I think we are in the phase of transitioning from computing being these physical devices and screens and how you think about them to you just expecting them to be there ambiently in context and just working for you. And I think that's a transition that's happening. And that's exciting. Screens aren't that expensive per se, right? You take a really nice house and look at the amount it costs to put glass there versus, actually putting screens, or the cost could actually make sense. So screens in itself aren't that expensive. So wherever it makes sense and you need it to work for users, I think it'll get there. So I think of it much more as computing being available to assist you throughout whatever you're doing. So that's the way I think.
So it's more like Captain Picard. He's standing in front of a giant screen, but he ignores it. And he just says, computer, where's so-and-so, or to give me such and such.
Yeah, I think things like that, are happening, even today. For example, when we put, in cars which have Android Auto, people actually speak to us very naturally. It surprises us sometimes. So, for example, all of us figure out how to call mom, right? And we say that, but people say, call my sweetie. They say that in the car, and we have to figure it out. Today we don't do that well, but these are the kinds of things.
When I say that, is the first thing, I know that if I say call my wife, most of these systems will say the very first time, well, who is your wife?
Yeah.
And then they'll remember it.
That's right. Yeah.
We hope they'll remember it. My sweetie could be various things. So what? How do you work that out?
It could be a daughter, for example.
My lovely daughter, my granddaughter, whatever.
This is, I think part of it is, when we talk about, this is why I talk about it as early days, understanding context is very, very hard, right? And I think as humans, we do a very, very good job of it. And, computers are very, very good at certain things. But what's changing, and this is why a lot of us who work in this field are very excited in the last 2 to 3 years, is we now believe we can start doing the kinds of things which are much more intelligent and, understanding context, understanding the situation, being able to understand who's asking it, what's appropriate, are there others listening to it. These are all important things, and I think computing is just beginning to address those things.
So I remember, I come there was a thing called Siri, there later was a thing called, Cortana, but you didn't kind of have a name for it. You had a name for Google now, but the voice and kind of conversation piece of it wasn't.
Part of it is, for us, we've thought of this as, this should be different for each user. So in some ways, our vision of this is we think of this as building each user their own individual Google. And, I think how we answer and respond to I don't know, 10-year-old living in Indonesia versus like you asking a question. I think, it's not, I'm not yet fully convinced it's one personality which works in all those situations. So we want this to be user-centric. And I think part of building a smarter system over time is to be able to understand users and be that assistant for them, be that friend for them. And I think it's going to take us time to figure this out. So part of
That's why you're not separately branding it, because you want it to be kind of an architecture that runs through.
we think that this will evolve over
I wonder if he's gonna rewind that too. Interesting.